The galaxy's greatest hunter chose the wrong prey. A human. I woke up to the smell of burning metal and the sound of Arya screaming in my ear. Dara, please respond. Dara, your survival probability has dropped to 22% and I would really prefer it did not drop further. I opened my eyes. Above me was a sky the color of a bruised peach. 2 moons hanging low, pale and wide, like a pair of watching eyes. The trees around me were tall and glowing faintly blue at their roots, the kind of bioluminescent growth I had catalogued on 3 other planets. Pretty, alien, definitely not where I was supposed to be. I sat up slowly and checked my body. Nothing broken. A cut on my left forearm, already clotting. My head hurt in the deep, steady way that told me I had been unconscious for a while. Arya, I said quietly. Status report. My wrist unit flickered. The small screen cracked across the middle, and Arya's voice came out with a faint buzzing underneath it, like a fly trapped in a glass. Survey drone. Destroyed. Emergency rations. 60% intact. Comm uplink. Dead. Weapons, you did not have any, which I would like to formally complain about. And there is something hanging around your neck. I looked down. A small black tag. Obsidian. Smooth, perfectly carved. Words ran across it in 12 different languages. I could read 4 of them. They all said the same thing. You have been chosen. You are honored. You will not survive. I held it in my fingers for a moment. Then I set it down carefully on the ground beside me. Arya, I said, standing up and brushing dirt from my survey jacket. Run a terrain map from whatever sensors you have left. Running. Also, do you want to know who did this? I already know the type. Someone rich, someone bored, and someone who has never met someone like me. I looked at the trees. Show me the map. The screen flickered and produced a rough wireframe of the surrounding area. Jungle in every direction. An acid river delta to the south. Rocky highlands to the east. A wide flat plain to the north that offered no cover at all. I studied it for exactly 90 seconds, then started walking east. East? Arya said. The terrain is rougher to the east. That is why I am going there. I had spent 6 years teaching survival in some of the harshest places on Earth. The Sahara, the Congo Basin, the Siberian interior in January. Before that I served 8 years in the Ghanaian Armed Forces. I was not a soldier anymore. I was a surveyor. I studied rocks and soil and atmospheric readings, and I got paid a decent salary to do it on worlds most people never heard of. I had not asked to be here. I had not asked to be prey. But here I was, so I would do what I always did. I would study, I would think, and I would go home. What I did not yet know was that the creature hunting me had done this 240 times before. He had chosen 43 different sapient species over 2 centuries of hunting. He had never lost. Not once. Not even close. His name was Vrekthor, and from somewhere in the glowing trees, he was already watching me. I found his first trap 40 minutes into my walk east. It was almost invisible, a thin filament strung between 2 trees at ankle height, connected to a pressure mechanism buried in the soil. Clean work. The kind of trap set by someone who had done it 10,000 times, placed with such confidence that most prey would not even look for it. I crouched beside it and studied the angle. The filament ran from left to right. The pressure plate was slightly to the left of center. That told me the hunter was right-handed, or whatever passed for right-handed in his species. The height suggested he expected prey that moved quickly, probably running in a panic. I did not touch it. I carefully unhooked one end of the filament from its anchor tree and reattached it 6 meters further up the path, at a slight angle. Then I walked on. You moved his trap, Arya said, the buzz in her voice carrying something that sounded almost like nervousness. You moved the apex predator's trap. I relocated it. Dara, I have identified the tag script. It is Kazul in origin. Do you know what that means? Tell me. It means the thing hunting you has 4 arms, chameleonic skin that makes him nearly invisible, a sensory array that can detect a heartbeat from 2 kilometers away, and a personal record of 240 successful hunts across 43 sapient species. I walked in silence for a moment. How long ago did the most recent hunt end? I asked. 3 weeks ago. The prey was a Toravan warrior-class male. Lasted 4 hours and 12 minutes. The average is around 6 hours. And what is the over-under on me? A pause. The betting pools, and yes, there appear to be betting pools, watched by several dozen wealthy alien observers via orbital drone, have set your expected survival at 3 hours. 3 hours. I looked at the sky. Somewhere up there people were watching me and placing money on how long I had left. What time is it? You have been active for 51 minutes. Good, I said. Then I am already ahead of schedule. I did not know exactly when Vrekthor began to close in on me, but I felt it around the 3rd hour. There is a particular kind of quiet that happens when a predator is near. The small creatures stop moving. The ambient sounds of a jungle shift downward, as if the world itself is holding its breath. I had learned to read that quiet in the Congo, where the silence before something dangerous appeared was its own kind of language. I moved toward the rocky highlands and began to climb. The stone was dark and layered, full of narrow crevices and overhanging shelves. Good cover, hard footing for something large. I heard the snare trigger from half a kilometer behind me. Just a small click, carried on the still air. I stopped walking and closed my eyes. He had found the relocated trap. He had walked into it, not because he was careless, but because prey did not relocate traps. Prey did not think. Prey ran. He would be out of it in seconds. He was not hurt, but he had stopped. Arya, I whispered, how long until dark? Approximately 2 hours. What drops in temperature at night on this planet? Roughly 60 degrees. The local fauna becomes significantly more active after dark. Also, your hunter's species has full thermal vision and does not require sleep. Perfect, I said quietly and started building. I built a shelter in a shallow alcove in the rock face, 3-sided, low to the ground, with an overhang above that would block heat signature from above. I gathered dry material from inside the crevices where the wind had pushed it, built a fire so small it barely flickered, and positioned it deep enough inside the alcove that the smoke would disperse before it rose above the rocks. It was a technique I had learned from a survival instructor who had learned it from her grandmother, who had lived in a desert where fire meant life, and visible fire meant losing everything you had. I ate half a ration pack. I drank carefully from a filtered water pouch. Then I slept. Not completely. I had learned, over years of sleeping in dangerous places, how to rest most of my body, while leaving a quieter part of my mind running, the part that listened. It was not a light sleep. It was a specific kind of rest, the kind that let me wake fully alert in under a second. I did not know that while I slept, Vrekthor found me. He told me later, much later, that he stood at the edge of the alcove for nearly 4 minutes. He scanned me 3 times. My heart rate was slow and even. My breathing was relaxed. My cortisol levels, which he could detect with his sensory array, were completely normal. I was not pretending to sleep in a state of terror. I was simply sleeping, on the ground, on an alien planet, while he stood 2 meters away. He had never seen anything like it in 240 hunts. He reached out one of his 4 hands toward my shoulder. My eyes opened. We looked at each other. His camouflage had partially dropped from the surprise, and I could see him clearly for the first time. Massive, 4-armed, with large amber eyes that caught the faint firelight. He was extraordinary looking, in the way that truly dangerous things often are. "Hey," I said. My voice was calm. It surprised even me. Then I activated the survey flare I had been holding in my right hand since I lay down. I did not point it at him. I pointed it past him, into the dark behind his back, where I had spent an hour before sleep listening to the sounds of large nocturnal creatures moving through the undergrowth. The flare burst. The creatures scattered and then charged in every direction at once. Vrekthor spun to face the chaos. I stood up, stepped out of the alcove on the opposite side, and walked away at a steady pace. Behind me, I heard something that sounded almost like a growl, but with a strange note underneath it. It took me a while to identify it. It was surprise. By morning, I had been running, or rather, moving carefully and consistently, for 14 hours. I was tired. My legs ached. The cut on my arm had closed, but it was stiff. I found a high rock shelf with good sight lines in 3 directions, sat down, and ate the rest of my rations. "Arya, what is the current betting status?" "You have broken every previous survival record. The alien commentary networks are in significant distress. There are reportedly 3 separate analysts arguing about whether you count as a valid data point." I almost smiled. "What are they saying about Vrekthor?" "That he is not himself. That his movements have become less predictable. That he has broken several of his own traditional hunt patterns." A pause. "He also opened a direct comm channel to you. I intercepted it but did not connect. Do you want me to connect?" I thought about it. Yes. The channel crackled open. A voice came through, deep, layered, like 2 sounds playing at once. "Human, you move well, better than most." "I am a surveyor," I said. "I walk a lot." "You moved my trap." "I relocated it. There is a difference." Silence for a moment. Then, "When did you last feel fear?" I considered the question honestly. About 10 minutes into this, when I read the tag. Then I decided feeling afraid was not going to get me home, so I stopped. You stopped? Yes. Another silence. Longer this time. How long has it been since someone surprised you? I asked. His answer came slowly. Long. Then maybe this hunt has been good for you. I cut the channel. Not rudely, just cleanly. I sat in the quiet for a moment, then I stood up and started moving south, toward the Acid River Delta. I had known about the river since the first terrain map. I had spent 2 days moving near it, watching how Vrekthor behaved in its proximity. He was never careless, but near the river, he was slightly more careful. He stayed back from the banks by a consistent distance, always the same distance, like an invisible line he had drawn for himself. It was not caution about the current or the creatures in the water. It was something about the water itself. I had taken a small sample on the second day using a cracked survey vial. Arya analyzed it. The acid content was not extreme, but it contained a specific compound. Not dangerous to me, not enough to cause serious injury to most species. But to causal physiology, according to the xenobiology database Arya carried, this compound disrupted the cellular mechanism that enabled their chameleonic camouflage. Vrekthor could not go invisible near this river, and he could not help following me into it, because I was right there, and he had never not made the catch. I waded into the shallows. The water came to my knees. It stung a little through my survey trousers, the way a mild sunburn stings. Manageable. I climbed onto a wide flat rock in the middle of the shallows and waited. He came fast. I heard him before I saw him, the sound of something large moving through undergrowth at full speed, no longer concerned with silence. He had decided to end this correctly. Clean, final, the way he had ended 240 hunts before. He hit the water, and his camouflage collapsed. He went from nearly invisible to fully visible in the space of 2 steps, and I saw him completely for the first time. All 8 feet of him, 4 arms spread for balance, amber eyes bright with focus. He was remarkable. He was powerful. He was standing in burning shallows with his skin shifting and flickering, his greatest advantage gone. I was standing on the rock above him with my sample borer in my hands. It was not a weapon. It was a geological tool designed to drill into rock surfaces at high pressure. But pressure and acid and distance were a simple equation, and we both knew it. We looked at each other. I was breathing hard. My legs were shaking slightly from 2 days of constant movement. I probably looked terrible. I am a surveyor, I said, and my voice only trembled a little. I am not a soldier. I do not want to hurt you. I want to go home. He was still. The river moved around him. The acid was working on his skin, not destroying it, but burning. He was in pain and he was not showing it, which told me a great deal about what kind of creature he was. He looked up at me. Those amber eyes moved slowly across my face, my hands, the tool I was holding. Then he laughed. It was a strange sound, layered, deep, rough-edged. Not cruel, something more complicated than that. What are you? He said. Tired, I said, and underpaid. He laughed again. Then he lowered all 4 of his hands. He called off the hunt over an open channel. A thing that, according to Arya, had never happened in Kazul hunting history. The orbital audience, which had grown to over 300 observers, responded in ways that Arya described as varied and extremely loud. He walked out of the river. I climbed down from the rock. We stood on the bank, a few meters apart, both of us dripping. He reached up and removed the obsidian tag from around my neck. He closed one large fist around it. There was a soft cracking sound, and when he opened his hand, there was nothing but powder. You will not be hunted again, he said, by any of us. I will make certain of it. I looked at him. What does that mean? In practice. It means that the greatest hunter in the known galaxy says your name with respect. And in my culture, that is not a small thing. He paused. What is your name? Dara Ose. He repeated it carefully, the syllables strange in his layered voice. Then he straightened, all 8 feet of him, shoulders back, and gave me a slow nod that felt formal. Important. Then he turned and walked into the jungle and disappeared. I stood on the riverbank for a long time. The 2 moons were still visible on the horizon, pale against the morning sky. The glowing trees swayed in a light wind. Somewhere above me, behind clouds and atmosphere and the cold dark of space, 300 wealthy aliens were probably very upset. I did not care even a little. Arya, I said finally. Rescue beacon activated, she said. Estimated pickup time is 4 hours. Also, you are currently trending on 7 different alien media networks. There are 3 documentary offers, 2 biography requests, and something called a commemorative figurine deal. Tell them no. They are offering significant sums of... Tell them no, Arya. A pause. I will counteroffer. I sat down on the riverbank. The ground was damp, and the rock behind me was hard, and I was dirty and exhausted, and my arm ached, and my legs felt like old wood. I leaned my head back and looked at the alien sky. 4 hours, then home, then a very long shower, a very long sleep, and then a formal complaint filed with my contracting company about being kidnapped and used as prey, which was absolutely not covered in my employment terms. I closed my eyes. I just wanted to survey some rocks, I said quietly, to no one in particular. The wind moved through the glowing trees. Somewhere far above, the stars did not answer. But for the first time in 2 days, I was not afraid. And that, I thought, was enough.